Yay!
Uh,
We're back again with yet another episode of this week's podcast. Also known as the best ASMR podcast in the game.
Great podcast.
This week's podcast is going to be brought to you by birdwatching and not feeling real.
This podcast is also brought to you by voting and police with nothing better to do.
I'm your host, Madison.
I'm your other host, Jessejames.
Well, it's time to unveil this monstrosity that I have created.
Ooh. For a moment, that looked like a bowl of sorbet, so I'm interested already.
It essentially is. Except it's alcohol, like a lot. So it's orange sherbet. I don't know the difference. With prosecco, so like a orange sherbet prosecco float, but that was too sweet, so I used like grapefruit bitters and a little bit of Aperol to make it a little not as sweet, and it's very good.
Nice.
Yeah, and it has a very pleasant like ice cream foam top. So zoom into this.
I wish I could remember what the drink consisted of, but there is a orange sherbet alcohol drink that I definitely had a few of in college, and now I can't remember it. Probably because it was too good.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I could drink a lot of these, which is not great because it's basically like half a cup of ice cream melted into alcohol.
I don't see
They're
what's
just
bad
the
about
most
that.
nutrition you could possibly be getting.
There's certain proteins in there, I bet.
Yeah.
It's bodybuilding drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a drink. It's cooling down currently. It is half grapefruit nectar and half sake with just a bunch of frozen berries thrown in the top from like a mixed berry bag. I haven't tried it yet, but it smells good. Yeah, it's really bitter, but that is sort of what I was hoping for.
That sounds very pleasant. I am now realizing after putting this into a martini glass that my face is not very good at drinking out of a martini glass at the moment.
Hell yeah. I just realized that the one thing I didn't get is coffee, and that's going to be a real problem. So let me go ahead and add a fourth drink.
That's important.
I'll be right back with the fourth one.
All right. I'll do some ASMR in the meantime.
Okay. I'll have to listen back to that later.
Oh, yeah, you should. Get some nice crunch. Crunch. So much crunch. These are pineapple, ancho chili, pork rinds. I'm not a huge pork rind person, but these are pretty good.
You've got the chicharrone hookup, I see.
I do. I made an extravagant visit to Winco the other day.
I like pork rinds a lot, but I need to let my teeth be finished. My dental appointment got moved to a month from now. So that was supposed to be like today, and now it's a month from today, and it also is a cleaning to prep for the final, which I've been waiting on for like all year now. But at least I know it should work okay. They went and checked everything a little bit ago, and I haven't gotten sick, so that was a successful trip.
That is good. That is a successful trip. So, well, I'm glad. I'm sorry to hear that they moved it, so now you have to think about it for another. Yeah. Oh yeah, now we're talking.
It needed some suds. Yeah, that's that extra scuzz I was looking for.
Hell yeah. Oh.
Oh shit. That really boosted the flavor, actually. I just doubled up on my drink by filling it all the way to the top with some Pabst. And actually, that was the missing ingredient, it turns out.
It turns out, I think Pabst might be the missing ingredient to most things.
Just a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of like scuzz, and a little bit of whatever that flavor is, because it's definitely, I recognize it as a beer-like thing, but it's more like a seltzer with like river water in it. Like that's kind of where I put the scale of Pabst, and I like it.
Sounds very appealing, actually. That sounds like instead of going to float down a river or something, because that's what I would like to be doing right now, I could do that in my mouth with that. Yeah. Is that what it tastes like to float down a river?
My snack, a bean-based
Beanito!
a fake Cheeto, but better than Cheetos taste, at least. And then river water. It really gets the low-class summer vibes flowing, and that's what I'm all about.
That's all that we're asking for here. This is Winco ice cream with Winco Prosecco and other stuff.
It tastes like sitting in poorly made cut-off jean shorts that I made specifically to impress somebody that didn't show up to the lake party I went to. That's what this tastes like. And it's cool and refreshing.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
I guess I'll start with an update from last week. So last I mentioned the cop propaganda action going up around Kirkland. I went out, I think, the night that we did our podcast, and somebody else had torn all of them down. And there were like 8 or more up at that point. So that was pleasant when I saw that I didn't even have to be the only person dealing with that. Other people do give a shit, at least. But I have too much fucking shit sitting here. But the downside is now the last weekend plus, there are cops everywhere. So at night,
you think because of that specifically?
Probably not. But I bet that didn't help. But it's been it could have been like the people yelling down by the dock, but I've never seen anybody care about that stuff. So unless the cops now all of a sudden really care about face masks, which they clearly have not this entire time, the only thing that's really changed, honestly, is that stuff around Kirkland, because everything else is so slow moving. I mean, unless they're after the dog walkers, because there's still people walking their dogs at like 1 a.m. sometimes, but usually cops don't really give a shit about that. But now there are cops just sort of circulating downtown, the like 4 square blocks of space that is Kirkland, all night. Like I was out last night at like 2:40, and there were 3 cop cars, and one of them was just parked in the parking lot with people in it watching the beach, which is definitely new. But, most of the stuff that I've been using is very incognito, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Even if somebody stopped and talked to me, there's nothing on me, really. So that part I'm not too worried about, but having more police presence has never helped anywhere. So I'm not super jazzed about that. The people screaming out of their car windows is what I bet they're looking for, but all of that stuff happened on the other side of the small town. So I don't really know why they would be hanging out by where the signs went up and not where the other stuff was happening.
Yeah.
But did I forget if I mentioned the other day in our last podcast if I mentioned the video from right before at the very end of last year, start of this year, there was like a police incident in Kirkland that just got swept under.
I don't think so. I don't think I mentioned that.
There's a video that is still not really well known, but it's at the YMCA over here in Kirkland. Some kid was accused of petty theft, and the cops went into the YMCA, grabbed him off a drum set, threw him on the ground, and took him out of the YMCA, while other kids, and I say kids, these are like probably 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, somewhere in that range, were like standing around, not aggressively, just being like, hey, seemingly like, what's going on? And then one other black kid walks in at the end, and instead of just sort of dealing with it, the cop decides to pull out his taser and put it right in his face.
Jesus.
And then he leaves with the first kid, and the other kid's just standing there, like, not knowing what to do. But it's just one of those videos of, like, cops being extremely aggressive towards people, and seemingly very based on what color they are. And it has complaints filed with both Kirkland and Seattle, police departments from the YMCA. Like the overarching YMCA group, not that specific one. And there's a video of the entire thing because they have cameras in YMCAs. So apparently it doesn't matter. Like, it just, nobody got killed, so who cares, seems to be the response. But it's frustrating that stuff like that is happening before anybody decided that there might be an issue with the cops during this whole thing. Like, that was before we even got to people fully armed with no mask going to state capitol buildings and like forcing themselves inside to zero cop resistance. We already had cops being shitheads on camera right before it, so it's nothing new. I just feel like that is a notable thing for people to remember, that none of the stuff cops are doing is really new. They just didn't have the excuse to do it as publicly as they are now. So there's my Kirkland updates.
Well, I hope the police presence lessens soon.
It would be nice.
Concerning.
Like, I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like if I'm like, I'll probably have to take a short break from putting stuff up. I put stuff up last night, but I think my main plan is to keep going on my like nightly or every other night walks and just not put anything up, so that my actions are read as normal as much as possible. Because I mean, it really is just me going for walks anyway, and I decided after, like, what can I do in this area, and that was sort of my like own response to it. But I don't know. I will say that my stuff isn't really getting taken down like from everywhere. So it clearly is not a huge deal that it's there, but it's still something to watch out for because, like, they can stop you if they see you doing it. So I would rather not have to deal with that if possible. It's not going to benefit anybody if they just shit on me at night. It's not really standing up for anybody at that point. I'd rather save any sort of cop interference for something that actually benefits other people. But
yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be able to resume safely.
Yeah. Well, and I can still check and see how stuff is going with my additions. It is good knowing there are other people doing that stuff. There are like organization posters going up, stuff like that. Not a ton, but enough. And some of those are getting torn down, which is part of the reason why I don't really believe anybody's weird support our cops when they're also tearing down support black people. Like, if you believe in one over the other, you're probably a piece of shit. So
yeah.
Yeah.
No real two ways about that one.
One being, if you believe in cops over black people, you're probably a piece of shit. I realized the way I said that could have been taken two ways, and I didn't mean it in two ways. You really got that a business taken care of.
There's like a nice little foam. Yeah.
It goes well with your slime that you presented last podcast.
Yeah. I should I should have brought that. I don't know where that is. But yep.
Yeah, we're not going to have the same juicy noises that we expect from a quality podcast.
I know. I've failed. I do have the kinetic sand around here somewhere, but that doesn't produce the same noise as would be nice. But
yeah, we need like good actually we explicitly don't need incredible microphones. I think that would cause huge problems, but
that would be worse.
It would be fun to have them for like specific things to squooge in front of them.
Yeah, that's true. I would like to be able to squooge some slime real close to a microphone.
The little bit that I could hear last time was a lot already. Let's see. So your elections aren't for a little bit. Yours are in October, it sounds like, for local stuff.
Yeah, I think that's when they're saying your ballot needs to be sent by.
Yeah, and then so that's everything in October for you, because the presidential ballot, if you're sending it via mail, kind of needs to be sent by the middle of October also, given our fucking postal service stuff. Also, as I found out a few local elections ago, if you send your ballot in on time and they don't postmark it on time, it doesn't matter. They don't count it. So that's fun. I sent mine in like 2 days early, but I didn't ballot it. I just sent it via mail, and then they sent it back and said that it was delivered 2 days later when it was no longer valid. So I don't know why the fuck that's a thing. It seems like if it was postmarked, it's one vote that goes on one side, but whatever. So be wary of that.
That's annoying.
Yeah. Let's see. Just sort of a general note. I guess the older co-founder of Turning Point USA died of COVID, or I think it was COVID. He died in any case. I don't like to celebrate people's deaths, so I won't do that. But I will say that the way that it's being handled by the dude who's left, who is a piece of shit, and I don't feel like mentioning him here, is frustrating. It seems like even when people die on the hard right side of things, they still kind of treat it like their death is worth it because we're still gonna do all the shit that we wanted to do, sort of. I don't know. I can't trust any of those people. I don't think anybody can.
Yeah, I mean, especially when all that shit's leaning towards a scary death cult these days. Yeah, it's kind of...
Doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
There was also a cop. I forget where it was, but they had, I think it got thrown out or whatever. There was a charge against somebody for in a Starbucks putting a tampon in their coffee, in a cop's coffee. Another one of those fucking stories. And they looked into it, and it wasn't. It was like a cleaning rag or something, which had apparently fallen into the cup. I don't care. Honestly, that is funny to me if it is what they did, but also, like, it's not impossible that something like that happened. They don't mention what kind of cleaning rags, so if it was the big cleaning rags that you use, then that Starbucks employee is just amusing. If it's one of the smaller, like, just pieces that you clean with, like the cleaning papers and stuff, then whatever, who cares? Like, I've had weird stuff fall into my coffee, or just, like, sometimes an extra tea bag will be, like, fallen into the bottom because somebody threw one in there and then the next person, like, hooked it in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, but it sure does make it seem like the left are more evil if it's a tampon, I guess. But anyway, that got denied any sort of, like, feasibility, so I appreciate that. There are little things like that that are uplifting for sure.
That is good. I didn't hear anything about that at all.
Like those stupid cops who said that fast food poisoned them because they didn't feel
like
good
Shake
afterwards.
Shack had poisoned them. Yeah.
Weird.
All right.
You felt bad after fast food. I don't know how that's a new thing.
It must be a hate crime.
I filled that up with too much Pabst. But
is there such a thing as that?
Well, like, it almost got out. I almost lost some of
it. It almost escaped. Yeah. Okay, that might have been too much.
So, how has your week been going? I feel like, you had some hospital action, right?
Well, that photo that I posted was from the, like, last week when I went to the ER. So that's old. That's
good.
Yeah, nothing happened that day other than just this being diagnosed, I guess. It's been fine. I think I am now starting to kind of, like, settle into the idea of, I don't know how long this is going to be or go on for.
Right.
And, like, not cosmetically, but just, like, it doesn't bother me that it looks weird, or it, like, I'm not really self-conscious about the way that it looks. That doesn't bother me at all. It's just, like, actually painful some of the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's really sore, and I don't know if this is related to it, but I've just been, like, super fatigued, like, really, really tired, and I don't know if that's, I don't know. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances that could be attributed to, but it's I don't know. It's been a weird couple of days. I think my brain is settling into the idea of, okay, this might go on for a long time, and you might have to, like, figure out how to deal with that. And if I don't know, I've been feeling really weird, like mentally very weird, kind of spacey, and just kind of out of it. So I don't think it's a cognitive problem. I think it's just a mental health anxiety thing manifesting as that.
Yeah.
So that's been fun, but I did over the weekend go to our local arboretum, and I walked around and like took pictures of flowers and trees and did some bird watching and saw some hummingbirds. That was fun. That was good.
Hummingbirds are pretty cool. I like
Yeah.
when they land for a moment and their breathing is just like.
Yeah, I got some photos of hummingbirds doing that. It was really cute. They're the exaggerated breathing is funny, and then also just the occasional like just
Yeah, they have a
freaking out.
wise look about them.
Just really like twitchy beings, and I kind of
Mhm.
I get that. Just seem very anxious people, so I like them, and that was a nice, fun thing to do over the weekend that helped things. Um, that was good. But yeah, other than that, my it's been a weird few days, and I think I'm just acclimating to it. So we'll see how it goes.
I I'm a big proponent of when you aren't super busy, or at least days or times of day that you aren't, uh, getting into the idea of like if you don't have work that absolutely has to be done, allowing yourself to just like do absolutely nothing sometimes
Yeah.
can be super useful.
Yeah.
I rarely let myself get to that point, and on days that I do where I like there was a day what day I think it was Saturday, maybe Saturday or Friday. No, it couldn't have been Friday. It had to be Saturday. I mean, I've been really fatigued lately with how hot it's been, and then I've just been having like I my work has picked back up, and because of like different parts of my hands do the work that I do and the work I do for work, and so the tips of my thumbs and stuff just hurt now because I'm not
Mm.
used to it as much, and just having that additional bit and the heat, I spent Saturday like asleep at like 30-minute chunks, like 3 times over the course of the day,
Mm.
just like like weird naps all day. And also, I think I fell asleep at like an early time on Sunday or something like that. It's just like I typically don't get enough rest, and part of it is that part of it's that I'm busy, and part of it's that I'm like extremely like anxious as a person. So I'll just sort of like sit and like uh, kind of like deal with it, and then deal with it by doing something else. And
Yeah.
parts of this weekend, my body just decided that I wasn't going to deal with it anymore. And then I didn't,
Mm.
and it was weird. But I do think that that can be really helpful. Uh, I feel like I don't know, the way that our country works and the way that a lot of things work, I would feel guilty 24/7 if that's the way I lived, even though I know that there are a lot of people who do kind of live that way. For some reason, I just can't. I can't like put myself in that position unless things are better in general. And right now, they're
Mm.
definitely not better in general. So uh, it's I don't know. I That's the part of self care that I believe in. The part that isn't like I'm gonna have a bunch of ice cream today and not pay attention to anybody else's needs because it's all about me. Like I think that's kind of a stupid way to be. Uh, but I think
Mm.
that actually trying to take care of your health in some way by being disconnected for a day at a time, or like at times when it's available, like the fact that we don't have vacations in this country as like a thing, uh, for like people under the income of what like uh, the medium amount of like how much money people make, like 50% of this country just doesn't really know what a vacation is. The only one I've ever been on, my roommate literally bankrolled the whole thing, and I still had to really struggle because I didn't get paid for that week. Like I didn't have vacation time. So like the idea that that's the only way you can take like a week off is crazy. That or get hurt. And you hear a lot of stories about people faking injuries just so they can like have some time to rest. That shouldn't be how it is, especially in a country that's like maybe not in the future as much, but has been by far the richest country in history. You would think it'd be a little different.
You would think. And it would be so much better if just the culture around that could change in the way that we think about it as a country. Like yesterday, I did do, I did take like a 4-hour nap in the middle of the day.
Hell yeah.
Which was so awesome. And like I could tell that I don't take naps ever. I hate sleeping during the day.
Yeah,
so I could
kind of
tell
agree.
that I hate it, but I was just like so tired and spaced out that I was like I'm not even getting anything done. So I just laid down and then I woke up at like 6 p.m. and I was like, oh well, I guess that needed to happen. And I felt good, but and I feel much better today than I did yesterday. But you wake up and I'm like, shit, I feel real guilty. I didn't do anything for a long time. But
sometimes 2 small days is just better than 1 normal day.
Yeah.
One of my relaxation things, I watched an hour and a half of or I guess run times without commercials, like an hour of a show that like 5 minutes in. So I heard this anime was popular and it like just started coming out like last month or something. And I was like, okay, this is apparently good. I'm going to watch it and like that'll be how I wake up today. And there are 3 episodes out so far. I don't remember the name. It's Somebody Chan Wants to Hang Out, I think.
Okay.
But I can't remember the main character's name. And like a few minutes in, I was like, okay, I think I was tricked because this seems to be an anime about a guy getting harassed by a girl in college who has giant tits. And that seems like maybe a weird place to start for a good anime. And then I watched like the next 10 minutes and I was like, okay, I guess it's good. Like I am enjoying this, but also even if it's like, I'm not going to say it's not sexualized. I'm just going to say it's like in a fairly decent way. And it's not the only emphasis. I don't know. Like, it is good enough. There's clearly a lot of money put into the production, but I still don't think I would be comfortable with literally anybody walking in and being like, oh, what are you watching? And that's usually a bad sign for a show. But it's weird because I feel weirder about watching this show than I did with the show about fantasy world sex workers from last year. Because that show was very clear about what it was like addressing, and it like, I don't know, it had like a certain way about it that felt very like, yeah, of course this is what this is about. It's not a big deal. This one, for some reason, being like sort of high production and like well animated, and then also just having this character who's like, I don't know, like in the real world, it would be like honestly, like some people I've known, but somebody who's like in the 5 to like 5'2" range, but has like giant breasts, where it's like, that seems like it would suck, but you're not old enough for it to really take a toll yet, so I guess that's fine. Like, that's sort of the range that this show's in. But despite being like possible, it just feels like there's no reason for it unless it's exploitation. So I don't know. But the whole show is about this, like, it's your regular pseudo relationship anime style stuff that's like sort of Seinfeld-y, like a lot of animes are, where they have a topic for an episode and then they just kind of move on to something else next episode, but with the setup of what you've seen so far in like characters. So the storyline's not really consistent. Like it's not that important, but the moment to moment stuff is like well written. And most of it seems to be about like people's differing versions of like self-confidence and what that does. And then the other part of that show is about people who work in a cafe, like a father and daughter who run a cafe, who really like watching people do dumb shit. So it's them like sitting off to the side in a cafe watching these people like argue with each other. And that's like what the whole show basically is.
That's
and
pleasant. I like that.
I'm kind of into it. Like that is a life that like 50-year-old me I could actually see, of just like working in a cafe and being very chill. Like that sounds like a great life. So there is a big part of it that just seems like pleasant and like junk food, but not like too bad. I just wish that the main character didn't have giant tits. Like it would just be easier to watch without that.
I'll have to give this one a try. I've been looking for new things to watch. I started watching a couple of or not a couple. I started watching a K-drama yesterday with some friends.
Okay.
I think it was called something the Camellia Blues or something like that.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one.
It's very interesting so far. It seems like they're trying to do a whole lot. It's like there's a love plot, and it's like a romantic comedy sort of thing.
That is all Korean drama.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is the first one I've ever watched, but it's like that. But then there also is a serial killer, I think.
Okay.
Which isn't like, that's not a whole lot going on actually. But the way that they did the first episode was just really funny because the way that they shift tonally is like super super abrupt, and they like start off the episode with real somber shots of them like pulling a body out of a pond. And then it immediately shifts to like happy shots of like, oh, everyone's staring at this hot girl walking down the street and she's starting a new life, and like very very jarring. And it was really funny, so I'm gonna keep watching that. But
it's not specific to any like Eastern Asian country, but they all are really interesting with their editing. There is a lot of that style of storytelling out of like China and Japan as well. If you should write this down if you have the ability to. There's a really good. It's actually based off of a Japanese comic, but I think it was a comic first. It might have been a book at some point, but it's called Coffee Prince, and there's a K-drama that is about that, and that one's really good. It's
Prince?
Sort of like
Prince,
coffee,
as in like Prince. A snow prince or a Christmas prince.
Or... Yes, and it kind of focuses around like that vaguely like romantic style of stuff. Like that's the driving force, but the subplot has to do with like learning about and being the best at like serving and making coffee, and it's an interesting setup. It feels almost vaguely Cinderella-ish at points, but like in a completely different way. Not in the like stereotypical way of like underprivileged becomes like enamored with wealth. It's more the like or like let's give a prize to the person who has all the things already, and that prize is a human being. It's more of a like it's still having to do with like classes of people, but it's more about like how certain classes have certain like attributes that the other lacks, and how that can be sort of misinterpreted by the other slash useful in some cases. Definitely not to the degree of something like Parasite, but it definitely you can see in the way that a lot of Korean like work addresses like wealth and poverty, that they have a pretty decent understanding in their art community of like why that's fucked up, and the proper amount of angst I feel for those kinds of topics. And I like how they weave that into something that's still very like cute and watchable for Coffee Prince.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I'll look into that one too. And yeah, I definitely noticed the those themes also in the show that I'm watching. There's a very obvious like bad guy character who is he's like kind of for some reason revered by the town as like they keep saying that he's going to be their new governor or their new politician or something.
Yeah.
But he has nothing going for him other than he's a landlord and owns like 5 buildings, and he does literally nothing other than that. Like he just drinks at the main character's bar and like harasses her, and that's his only like character traits.
That
But he
sounds pretty
thinks,
consistent.
yeah, the entire town, like the police chief totally loves this guy, and the entire town is like in awe of how cool and suave he is, and he's got like suspenders, but he's just a total douchebag, and everybody else hates him. But yeah, that's in line with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I don't know. If we can get past the people being upset that pro-cop shows are not getting like a season in the United States, eventually maybe we can get to where we can actually have like real talks about that kind of stuff. I think it was like the Paw Patrol creators or whatever were like, don't worry, it's coming back. It's just like, cool, great. I hope that police dog's gone then. Like, or more appropriately, I hope that police dog has a new job that isn't police. Like, that would be one way to bring it back. But I sincerely doubt that that's how it's going to work. For all the shit that people talk about, like, oh, you can't teach our kids this, as soon as it's something that you think is, like, gonna bother your kid if they don't see it, they sure do fucking love just caving on it right away. Like, I don't know. I feel like being a kid is supposed to be fairly difficult because you're having to learn a ton of stuff, and having one extra thing that you have to learn that's maybe not the most pleasant isn't a big deal. Like, that's exactly the time that you should be learning it.
Well, yeah. I mean, and for anyone to think that they're not learning unpleasant things, especially today, like, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Also, I think this is in India. I don't know why I suddenly thought of this, but they are having plans from, God, is it India? I think it's India. I could be wrong. The important thing is that there is a country currently, might be Russia, currently working on the KFC in their area is going to start making 3D printed bio meat that is only partially cellularly chicken or chicken nuggets and mostly vegetable. And it doesn't require killing chickens to harvest, apparently. So that, like, all of this information would need to be checked, but that is what I heard. I generally like everything about that as like an idea, but there is a Japanese horror comic specifically about how 3D printing fake meat chicken becomes a weird like plague that sort of destroys parts of the lower class. So there's just part of me that's like, it's easy to predict that would eventually happen, but also like it's just close enough to the thing in that comic that it's troubling to me. It shouldn't be. Like, I think it's a positive, but also I'm curious to see what 3D printed bio meat ends up being in the end.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Apparently it can also, because it's 3D printed, be made into interesting shapes, like more intricately than regular. So that's also something to look forward to. Maybe you could make
anatomically correct dino nugs.
Yeah, basically. Here's a dinosaur skull that has a working jaw hinge, and it's fake chicken.
I mean, I'd be into it. That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. Man, I hope that, like, the Earth lives long enough for us to figure out how to make that an actual, for people to invest the time and money necessary into making that an actual mass-producible thing.
I was going to say, we could have a lot better than that, like, 40 years ago. People just decided we weren't going to.
Yeah. I'll rephrase. I wish people weren't so shitty, and I hope they stop being shitty soon. Which, it's not hopeful. It's not looking good, but maybe. I don't know. Yeah. My internet is really not good today.
Really?
Do I have...
You're mostly coming in fine, honestly. There's probably some lag. But
really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing a lot. It could be my internet that's not doing great, and you're just seeing the shittiness of it.
It might be, because right now you look like this on my screen.
Oh, nice.
I just see the vague outline of a head and shoulders.
Yeah, I bet that's our internet, because the internet around here has been real fucking weird lately. And Nick is working, so there's a definite chance that he's using like a large amount of what's available for our internet connection.
Gotcha.
But it seems like it takes video from both of us when we get our loadout for uploading, so it's probably fine. If it's not fine, then, I mean, it's a podcast, so just listen to it.
It's fine enough.
Yeah, if you can only hear us, then you're getting the, I guess in a way, the optimal version.
I think this is the optimal version. I'm going to make it a little more optimal here.
Yeah. Come on. Get in there. What is this? What vintage is this?
This is the whatever tequila I was given. Oh no, a drop escaped. That's not good.
Don't let it.
I did not.
Now that you've had it for a little bit, what's your review of this tequila?
I like it a lot. It's really so just so everyone knows what we're talking about, this is the Jose Cuervo Family Reserve extra special tequila, I guess. I got sent it from a client who I like very much. I like them even more now. But it's very smooth and I don't even know what that means. But when you keep it in your mouth for a little bit, it's kind of like a little bit caramely almost. It's like a little sweeter. Which usually when I drink tequila, you don't really hold it, or I don't hold it in my mouth for that long because it burns. But
Right.
this this kind is actually really good for just like sipping on.
I mean, that is what I look for in a drink usually. I don't do a lot of shots, but when I do, I want it to be something that isn't complete garbage, or complete garbage, I guess. I've definitely taken my fair share of whiskey shots from a plastic bottle, so I guess that is also acceptable.
You need so you need range to understand the whole. What is the word that I'm looking for?
Spectrum.
Thank you. Spectrum. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, so other little bit of, well, first I guess biggest news for the world scale this morning. Did you see the explosion in Beirut?
Yeah, that was insane.
So that's probably the biggest news. The shot that the one guy got like off his balcony from a ways away is the most disturbing because you can actually see long enough for you to see the impact point of the explosion moving and just disintegrating buildings, which is it looks like a fucking fake scene from like a live action Akira. Like, it's messed up.
It didn't look real.
I'm not going to talk about the speculation stuff because a lot of people there seem to be following a narrative of who did it, or if it was on purpose or not. And I imagine there will be more information on that later. I don't have any idea. I don't know how explosions work, but that one was real big. And Beirut's not exactly a place that nobody targets, so there's a lot of opportunity, but unfortunately, I think some of what I'm hearing is not surprising or unlikely, but that stuff's not worth talking about. I hope everybody is as okay as possible, because that looks fucking terrible. In other news, let's see. So the Associated Press went through and analyzed arrests in Portland that have been happening during this whole thing. And it sounds like what they were finding was that like a tiny, like 5%, if that, of the people who were arrested during any of the Portland stuff were arrested for a reason. And the amount of violence that was done by protesters that ended in arrest was like 0. And this is based on like arrest reports and like analysis of arrests from like official sources by the AP. So like anybody who thinks that what's going on is warranted or that it's just is completely talking out of their ass if they are paying attention to any of it. I'm glad people are looking at it critically, though. Like, there's always a part of me that worries that people are just gonna fucking move on and forget about that stuff, and it's still happening every day. It just doesn't have U.S. military as present. So, like, I think that stuff, I'm glad that we're still hearing about it, but it is stressful. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, I also had seen that some of the people who had gotten arrested are getting charged with, among other things, like felonies. And
the felony of existing.
Yeah, and essentially won't be able to vote. So, I mean, that's really like playing the long con there. That seems pretty transparently suppression, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like kind of like there was a very specific reason why those troops were sent to specifically blue cities, which is cities in general, but specifically Democratic areas where the most passionate people and the most put upon people are trying to like do anything, and just taking those people and fucking up their ability to be part of our system anymore seems like a very targeted thing. And if you can combine that with terrorist actions like randomly grabbing people, then it's very effective at also scaring people away from it. So I don't know. Like, talking about it is the most important thing. Like, you have to like just keep harping on people. Like, I mean, it's the same way that people are still talking about Breonna Taylor, and it's the same way that like they just reopened the case for what's his name, Caleb? I forget. There's been a lot of names lately. It's kind of hard to keep them all straight, but the musician kid who was in...
I know who you're talking about, but the name escapes me right now.
All I remember is it was at first glance I was like, is this a Mormon kid? And then it wasn't. It was, or at least I don't think so.
Elijah? Was his name Elijah?
Elijah, there we go.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of Caleb's, and I had made that association. Anyway, that case, I guess, got reopened, so they're hopefully doing anything about that as well. But I don't know, like, despite it being out of the news, all of that shit's still happening, and the thing to take some solace in is that pressure is still happening to the people who are actively doing a lot of it. They're just trying to make it not look like it, so everybody who's slightly less involved stops talking about it, or flips and turns on the other side with that stupid, like, we haven't talked about this in weeks. Why are you trying to dredge up old news? Like that kind of shit that they always pull. So, I don't know. We will have to wait and see on pretty much everything lately, but at least things are still moving in a direction. There's still lawsuits against the U.S., whatever that ends up meaning, and restraining orders and all kinds of stuff. So, I don't know. Other people know how this stuff works. I just get upset about it. So I will let them continue to know how it works and try to learn what I can.
That's a good
And then
strategy.
Sometimes we get stressed out and our face works weird for a while. I guess that's just part of it.
I mean, sometimes that happens. I don't know to whom, but...
Us, thankfully. That would have been the perfect time for it to dribble out the side of your mouth. I didn't necessarily want that to happen. There was just a part of me that was like, that would be comically the perfect time for it.
Yeah, that would have been good timing. I have been drinking, not a lot, but I have been drinking some of this more recently, so that could be why. I've had some practice.
You have gift tequila. It's hard to ignore gift tequila.
It's very hard to ignore gift tequila, especially when it's hot and there's nowhere to go.
I got gift Grey Goose when I moved into this apartment, and I managed to make that last for like 9 months, because I don't drink a ton. Pretty much all I drink is, especially because I can't go anywhere and get drinks anymore, is when we do these podcasts. So this is the bar for me.
This is the bar.
Yeah.
That works. I like that. I like that for our podcast.
It's appropriate. I think this is about the level of conversation you would get at a bar.
Yeah.
There's less sketching for me. I'm actually paying attention to everything, so that's different, I guess.
I guess the thing that's different for me is that I'm not wishing I was at home. So
yeah, that is a big part of going to bars sometimes. I don't think I've mentioned this, but they adjusted our buses, and my ability to go to Seattle is now way different. Like this was a planned adjustment that got like retroactively worse because it was planned to happen in like the end of March, and then it coincided with reducing all the buses with like the COVID outbreak here. And now I can technically get to the U district. And for people unfamiliar with Seattle, that is, there's the main chunk of Seattle, there's the U district and some other like Northgate and northern districts. There's the east side of Seattle. Some of it attaches up on the top and it attaches down at the bottom, but there's water all over in the center. And so buses going to just one part of the like three major areas that are separated by water means you have a hard time getting to the rest of it. And one of the things that they've done, which I don't understand, and my conspiracy mind is very upset with it because it keeps people from being able to protest very easily. But the buses don't go everywhere. So the only ways for you to get to downtown Seattle from a lot of the outside of downtown areas is either to take a lot of extra routes and like literally like hour and a half to 2 hour trips to get what would normally be 15 minutes, which also stops. Like our buses don't run 24/7. They run until like midnight-ish, and then they start up again at like 5. And most of the time, if you're doing something, you're gonna be there till midnight-ish. So like it's already not great for like getting into somewhere. And the buses are all reduced, so like there's like maybe a third of the seats available because you have to like space them out and everything. And it's bad for that stuff. But the other thing they did is the light rail can get you from the districts that aren't the east side into downtown and back. And that's like what they're relying on. But in order to ride the light rail, you have to pay for it. And the buses right now are free, but they don't have the card system up online currently. It's taken down for some reason. So in order to get on a bus, you have to already be able to go downtown and get money put on a card by a person during work hours. So in order to take a bus, if you don't already have the money like on a card, because you can't pay cash, you have to already be able to take the bus. It's a fucking mess. And people are actively coming and like scrubbing off things that people are writing in Sharpies on signs of like, beware, 11 buses are gone and you can't go downtown. And they're very vigilant about coming and like, no. Like, and people aren't really talking about that either because it only affects poor people or people with limited means, which is probably where I'd put myself. But trying to go downtown and back, I was like in the U district at maybe 3, and I got home from going downtown and back here at like 9. And
wow.
I wasn't doing anything. I was just getting there, dropping something off and getting back. And it's insane that going to where all the protests are happening takes that long. And it wasn't full buses. It was buses with like a couple people. But I had to like stand out on the floating bridge and wait for buses. I had to like take light rail, which I thankfully have a card because like I always have to be prepped for that shit. But it's not great for that stuff. So anybody who's in Seattle who doesn't normally take the bus, be very wary of your information of old bus schedules, because a lot of those buses don't even exist anymore. Like, you can't take a bus to, like, I can't go to work anymore, essentially. I have to take, like, a series of other things. And, like, the upside is I don't want to be on a bus, so working things out with people to, like, get to work with, like, ride sharing is okay for now. But, like, on, like, every other week, the only way that I can, or I guess half the month, the only way I can even get to work for some of the days I work is to ride share with somebody who's already coming from work. So they're getting paid a half hour to not be at work, which isn't going to be able to be permanent. Like, they have to have buses for things to move around. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking more buses to get to work from the same town that work is in than I took when I lived, like, a full, like, 2-hour trip away, and that's also fucking insane. So we'll see how that comes out, but that's been sitting on my mind a bit lately. All of the art groups and all of the, like, gallery shows and stuff I do are also downtown for the most part, so, like, that's going to be a real problem in, say, 6 months to a year when I can even think about doing that stuff too.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Do you think the altering of the routes and, like, less buses, that was already planned, or do you think that's also because of COVID?
It's both. It was planned to be changed, which was already frustrating because the community outreach portions of that planning were specifically on, like, Wednesdays at 2 p.m, and that was it. And it was very rare that they came up. So it was like, do you work? Do you need buses? Well, you can't come to these, so fuck you. We
are not interested in what you have to say about this.
That already sucked. But when I found out that it was going to cut down stuff, that was bad. But with the COVID stuff, it's just, like, decimated. And a lot of this stuff kind of works into another thing I was going to touch on, which is some voting action.
Voting action.
One of the biggest pieces of shit in, I would say, Washington State, who isn't running their own militia, which is another politician. Don't go to Spokane, is what I'm saying. But
what? Why?
Well, he's not running Spokane now, I don't think, but the Spokane leadership was a militia, a right-wing militia for a bit there, specifically because Spokane was too blue and they needed to take back Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Which, anyway, so a lot of people know this dipshit, and it's Tim Eyman, and I think he should be, I don't know, like, I can't think, I mean, just look at his face, I guess, first off. Like, people complain about fucking Inslee because he looks like a jack-o'-lantern, and he does, but I can look at a jack-o'-lantern who's written about conservation and explicitly about, like, Washington State a lot, and kind of understand, like, we should give this jack-o'-lantern a place to help us push our agenda. When I see Tim Eyman, he looks like he's, like, 2 weeks away from becoming the Green Goblin, and he acts like it. His other professional experience that he still claims is 14 years of small business owning, but I think that coincides directly with his 14 years of, like, doing like, political work here. I think his small business is, like, being a shitty lawyer who pushes stuff for, like, garbage. Like, he's part of the reason why things like the bus system are fucked, which is why this is a transition, because he keeps trying to push us further and further into having no cost for people to drive cars. And it's like, if you just want insurance companies and car manufacturers to have all the money and you don't give a shit about the environment, then the state suffers, and like we don't have good roads, we don't have good transportation for everybody who needs it, and people who are rich get to have more cars for less, I guess, but like eat my ass. I don't know.
It's almost as if being a small business owner is almost like not any sort of qualification whatsoever, and we put way too much stock in that. I know a lot of idiots that own small businesses. I own a small business. It's not hard.
Yeah.
If it was
I
hard,
have been a small business owner twice already.
Yeah.
Hey, it's nothing. That's not a thing. It's just whether or not you're successful. You can have all the businesses you want. Also, I don't know. People's idea of what business is. This is a completely different conversation. Fucking sucks.
The word business makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Well, I would prefer.
But it would just like come out half of my mouth.
I would prefer if you would interface with people in meat space and get on the ball about that, because business is really where it's at. Anyway, so Tim Eyman's whole thing is about basically about how Inslee is too reckless, and he's the reason why violence and homelessness are in the state, which is insane. But he also just like puts a bunch of stuff about like, I got you cheap tabs. Also, I want to destroy everything you love so I can make money. So I'm sure a lot of people love it. I think he's also the person who fucking spread that rumor that if we change the way that we handle our like subsidies for gas and stuff like that, then people are going to have to pay $100 a gallon, which I several people who bought into that, which is the craziest shit, because first off, people can't afford $100 a gallon, so you don't sell gas anymore. Like, there's no way that's a way to run a business in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, last I checked, capitalism is bad, but capitalism also has to rely somewhat on a market. So, like, you can't just say, you have to give me an ear to get gas, and then expect people to be able to get gas, because you can only get it twice. And most people probably would, which is the shitty thing with the way our country works. Well, I bet it would have a blackout day for ears as well, because that's how this country works. Anyway, let's see. There are other people running for governor. In fact, there are so many people running for governor that it was a challenge to get through this shit. There's one person in here who I think could eventually be a good option. I'll mention her because it's Green Party. Liz Halleck at least prefers Green Party. Who knows what that equals in the long run? But she works on like a Yakima committee or something. Like, she doesn't have enough experience for a lot of stuff, but she's like arts and law kind of person, I guess, who also has small business in her thing, but her small business includes like making ice cream and selling weed, which is like, all right, that sounds like the kind of small business that I can relate to. Selling like home crafted goods essentially, but on a slightly bigger scale. I think she might not be the only woman. She might be, though, running for governor. I would like, I don't know. I would like I've definitely mentioned this before. I would like a moratorium on men in executive positions for like a decade. And just say like, hey, we've had a lot of like unequal representation for the next 10 years. We're just not going to have any white men as representatives. So deal with it. I would be so interested in how that would actually like adjust the way that our country works. because nobody would ever go along with it. Everybody would say that it was tyranny of some kind, because of course they would. But like, I don't know, it would be cool. I would enjoy it. Anyway, her big thing is basically being very into medicine, the environment, and like Native people's support. And also her final line on this is Amazon's practices have been anti-competitive and predatory, and we need to transform Amazon into a public utility owned by the people. But then other stuff that I've seen in her stuff was public utility owned by the people, or break it up. I saw some older stuff where she was saying we need to like break up some of these companies that are creating a space where people can't survive anymore. And honestly, I think that is the big thing that would put her in a spot to be a good next option after Inslee, because she clearly gives a shit based on how long she's been like trying very hard but staying in low level like committees and stuff.
Yeah.
She actually has her own website and her own email dedicated to her shit, and not just her personal email. And a lot of people don't have that.
Really?
Yeah.
Are there any Yahoos at yahoo.com or at I don't know what
there's Gene H at silverlink.net. That sounds so old. I don't even know what the fuck that is. But yeah, there's a lot of like Thor Amundsen, who's another piece of shit. His is Thor Amundsen at Gmail. There's a Wix site. There's a
what?
Oh my God. Name at wixsite.com. There's a there's a guy who just has one at governor5.com. I don't know what the fuck that means. God. So yeah, there's a C Campbell 9008 at yahoo.com. So that's not even attempting to make an email for your whole thing.
Just an interesting side note. The 1 year that I lived in, I guess year and a half, whatever, the time that I lived in Washington and I voted there, I really appreciate that they send you, that like you can tell that the state cares about people voting, because first of all they mail you ballots. Second of all, they put together an actual brochure with like all of the information about each candidate and like how to contact them if you want to. That does not exist in Idaho. Like I guess we'll see. I haven't received an like mail-in ballot here, but I'm curious to see what it'll look like, because I really doubt it'll be nearly as robust or filled out as their stuff is.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want you to.
This book is just shy of 100 pages.
Yeah, like I was really surprised and impressed by that when I lived there. I was like, this is really cool that they do that, and I have never seen anything like that in Idaho. But I mean, we'll see when I get my mail-in how that goes. We'll do a show and tell of the Idaho.
Well, that's why I honestly believe that Seattle specifically, but Washington State gets a lot of shit from Republicans, is that they try very hard to make sure that everybody is in on voting. And like, I don't know how much it affects like the voting numbers. Like, I honestly just haven't looked into it, but the fact that I can vote without going to a library to look stuff up on the internet, there's definitely been times in my life where that would be my only option, but I get a book because I have an address for them. So at least there's that. And you can go look at this stuff like in town, but like, I don't know, it's frustrating to even think that places wouldn't want to do this. It's
Right.
also frustrating that when you have something like this, you get almost exclusively Democrat vote like candidates into office. I will say right now, I don't have the thing anymore in front of me. There are actually, I'm just going to do a quick count because I want people to understand what these kind of numbers are like. So let's see. Right now, there are... There are, it appears to be 36 people running for governor in Washington.
Whoa.
So, like, the ballot was governor was the whole front, and lieutenant governor, I think, was like the sidebar on our like 3 fold-out sheet. It's a lot of people. It takes a long time to like look through it, especially if you have no idea who's saying what. Now, of those 36 people who are running for governor, do a quick scan. There are, not really all of it. Okay. Well, I was in lieutenant governor for that one. Okay. Of those 36 people running for governor, there are 3 Democrats total. And there is 1 Green Party, and almost every single remaining person is a Republican. There are a couple independents that, let's see, that independent runner is the only other woman. I did miss her, but here's what her page looks like.
Is it just blank?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
She did not submit anything, I guess. Oh.
Cool.
She also didn't submit an email, so okay. The people who don't have a party preference, which is only a few, most of them are Republican. A handful of them, I think more than there are Democrats running, prefers Trump Republican Party, which is fun. So even past Republican, making sure you know, I'm into this.
Yeah.
I'm into the gross shit.
Not the gross one you're thinking of, the real gross one I'm thinking of. Nice.
So like this one guy who's running for no party preference, let's see. The state of Washington is incomparable. Her diversity, geography, and economy would power a strong, independent nation. So we have like these like weird secessionists. He then says like, I worked on a farm. I drove a tractor. I fed pigs. I lugged irrigation pipes. Like, it's just this weird bullshit. And like, I would be totally down to get farmers. Some of them, farmers and ranchers, are okay on policy. Most of them are pretty conservative. So I probably wouldn't go for a farmer first. But like this guy's entire thing is just about how he thinks we should be like more independent, which honestly, he's more libertarian, but not current libertarian. And that equals no play for him. There is a lot of talking from people who say that they're specifically anti-Trump but Republican about how they prefer people over government, which is sort of old Republican talking points. But then they go on to talk about how they don't care about like poor people in essence. Like that is what their policies reflect. This guy is real good. I'm gonna cover his name because we don't need to know about him, but here's his picture. So he's already presenting his best face first, in which he is. It looks like if we were to pan down a little bit, he'd have a gun. But
I do get
his
that
statement
impression.
starts off. The first sentence of his statement. What would be, I guess, the least qualifying statement for becoming a executive in a state?
What would be the least qualifying statement?
It isn't necessarily, but it's in the ranking for me, I think.
I don't know. What did he say?
His statement starts off with, "We meet again."
Oh, God. Oh, no. He sounds like he's running to be in, like, the Star Wars Galactic Senate or something.
He says, you can learn about my books at www.kapowbooks.com.
Okay, well, I'm going
immediately. He's not afraid to tackle the toughest issues, like telling Bill Gates to shut up.
Really? It says that?
Yeah.
Nice.
It does say pay his fair share of taxes, which I agree with, but I like how it's presented. But I don't want people to get the wrong idea. He does agree with being somewhat anti what are considered liberal, rich, like, icons, even though Bill Gates is not liberal. He's a piece of shit, too. But he touts his experience as being a former wildlife biologist in Alaska. So, he's got his shit together. I don't know anything from that. He said Israel is the enemy, which that's a complicated issue. He uses a Huawei smartphone, which is something that he talks about a lot in his statement. He's talking about
smartphone?
Huawei, the Chinese company. It's just it's a non-American but very, like, widely used cell phone.
Oh, okay.
But he's using that as, like, his, like, pro, I guess, global thing. But he says his affiliation is Fifth Republic Party. I don't know exactly what that means. He also says ignore the Seattle Times and other sleazy media. He wants voters to think for themselves, but apparently that includes not listening to anybody. Because if you're just saying Seattle Times, which is like the local paper, I agree with, like, I don't know, 40% maybe of what they say, but saying to ignore the news and sleazy media and not clarifying kind of just means don't look at anything to me.
Yeah.
And then he says that a patriot must always be ready to protect his country from his government, which is a very Republican thing to say, but not very Republican actions. So I don't know what to think about this dude. But I remember really enjoying his stuff. He's not a complete enigma when you consider the other people here. There is there's a guy who's just running on the fact that he was in the military for 8 years, which, no offense to the military, but that's not how I'm going to elect somebody for sure. Guy who lists community service as shaving his head.
What?
There is there's a guy who is a paraplegic, which is his, like, byline, but he then talks about how seemingly how slavery doesn't exist anymore because we got rid of it, which is a weird thing to harp on.
What?
It's the people in here are a lot. This guy named Thor lists his education as graduating high school, but then, which, that's fine. Like, But for a governor, that's a weird way to like list out your education. He also just lists all of his experience and community service as nothing, but he does list under community service that his community service is running for office, which is a wide swing.
Oh boy. I do remember getting my ballot when I was in Kirkland and reading through them and being like, wow, really truly anybody can run for office, right? Like it's really there's a lot of people in here now and also in the one that I was looking at a while ago that was like, I don't know who put it in your head to do this, but it wasn't a good idea.
There is a money shot, a couple of crazy guys coming up. I'm just trying to work through it because I remember there was something I was looking for on one of these that I didn't have time to mark off, but I do find it very interesting that they felt comfortable putting that in here. I'm not comfortable with them doing that. Also, this guy, I want to note, the Iceman is a name that was given to a serial killer who worked for the mob, and his data is one of the only people who is nothing as well.
Oh, no.
So I don't really trust him, just based on appearance. There is your usual ethnic and gay Republican running on the platform that they're anti-people on almost everything, but they're ethnic and gay, so come on.
You can trust me.
Yeah. There's a lot of people saying they're going to fight for small business by getting rid of all taxes, which, no thank you. So this one Democrat didn't submit a photo. They didn't submit any information for elected experience, professional experience, education, or community service.
Nice.
But their statement is that they're running as a spokesman for the anti-apartheid Reparations Now movement. And I wish that they had put a little more into this because, like, I don't think that can be your entire thing with, like, our current need for, like, environmental reform as well. Mm-hmm. But I do think that it's good to have somebody representing it, but not having anything except for a name and then your statement is a little rough. I do like that they refer to, wait, what? Also, their checklist of things they want to take care of is very poorly arranged. They clearly did this on a computer and then didn't think to fix it. So you see how it's these separate paragraphs with numbers at the start? Mm-hmm. This is number 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. The other numbers are in the middle somewhere of each of these.
Oh,
so they clearly did not put a lot of effort into setting this up. But their issues are ending homeless by providing land and materials and expertise to homeless to build their own housing. I don't know.
Okay.
His police reform is limiting police to 5-year terms, which is another weird one that's like, I haven't heard that yet. I don't know if that would fix anything, really. It would just make people mad and get repealed.
Yeah.
He wants to form a bank only for homeless people, I think.
Okay.
This is the one I love the wording of. He wants to remove the names and images of all, in quotes, North American Hitlers. And then after that, it says Washington and Jefferson. And it's like, I don't completely disagree, but like also, you're not going to get a lot of votes off that.
Calling them Hitler. That's pretty funny.
Like, I love that this stuff is in here. I just wish that he had an editor and more information, I guess. let's see. He does. I don't know why he uses the term Indian killers if he's going to put Indian in quotation marks instead of just referring to them as First Nations people or something else. It is written poorly, let's say. But I do like that he calls founding fathers North American Hitlers, and I also enjoy that he calls freedom and justice movements terrorists.
I
Just
do
having
like that.
in the voting book, I appreciate. So kudos to you, Garrett, Omari Garrett. I love what you're doing. Get an editor and maybe people pay more attention.
I'm gonna follow him on Twitter right now because I want more of that content.
Hell yeah! If he's on Twitter, get in there.
Oh
here, I'll put his name up for you.
There's not enough pixels for me to see what it is.
Oh,
okay.
It is OMARI space PAHIR space GARRETT. So if he's on there, that'll be where he is. Sadly, he doesn't have any information on that stuff. But if you can find him, absolutely follow that guy because he seems like he's got some good posts going.
I bet he does.
One guy that we always have in our ballot is a Good Space Guy. He's a regular. Here, maybe you'll see this face at least. He is an old Santa Claus man. And
these faces are just good. I remember him.
Yeah. Good Space Guy is always there. His email is always goodspaceguy42, which I feel like he just misspelled 420 at yahoo.com. And his website, if anybody wants to go, is colonizespace, all one word, .blogspot.com. So you know it's going to be good because it's on Modern Angel Fire. He apparently is a chemical plant operator. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's that for you. He lists himself as preferring Trump Republican Party. So
what?
I don't know. He must be very pro Space Force if that's the case.
That's his one issue is Space Force.
Honestly, with him, I don't know if he's being sarcastic or not, because obviously he's not looking to get elected. But his ending line is, please refer to our world as Spaceship Earth. This concept might improve your descendants' future. I don't know if that's important.
All right.
He also talks a lot about, I've concluded that we should look upon our world as a natural and beautiful spaceship. Please use my final name, Good Space Guy. How many robots would you want to supervise to make your work easier? How would you like to improve your body?
There's a lot to unpack with Good Space Guy.
And then he has some good points, which are like, let's help people get into the workforce easier so that they can pay their own bills and raise the standard of living. He doesn't have anything that he wants to add to like make that possible. He's just like, I don't know, let's do it though.
Do that.
Yeah. So Good Space Guy, if you're ever moving to Washington or anything, expect to see him until he's not around anymore, because he's always there. Tim Iman,
this just like his life thing.
Yeah. There is
Michael
a socialist. There's a Socialist Workers Party guy who I read more about, and I'm kind of not super big on him, unfortunately, because I would love to have a socialist option. But it just seems like his thing is like he basically is doing what like low-level socialism should be doing anyway, of like trying to support like baseline producers so that they have more rights and more like specifically rights to the benefits of what they produce, because that way power is distributed the way that power would actually be distributed without a weird like management system. But the rest of his stuff is just very like non-committal in a way. He talks a lot about like people's capacity, which is like too nebulous for me. But I'm glad he's in there. Hopefully he will inspire more socialists who are more charismatic than this man who looks like a very, very old Rivers Cuomo. We've got another Republican who's is the white man who says in his community service, despite years of being treated like a criminal by the criminals, I continue to rise above. Which, is he a police officer? Because that sure sounds like it. He's proud of being able to request and receive FOIA information, which literally anybody in the entire country can do. He says that he knows everybody has his back. I don't know what his deal is. His picture is also a selfie on his phone in a angle. So, nice. No thank you. There's a affiliated guy with a name that doesn't seem real and a beard and a haircut that also don't seem real. I don't know if you can see any of this, but
I can't see it. I'm gonna look up a list of the candidates so I can get a full taste. Ryan.
This guy is Ryan Rials. So it's RyanRyals. So this guy, if you see his picture, looks like a cartoon version of the devil from a political cartoon. And he is into civility training for police departments, so he's kind of in the camp, it sounds like, of let's pay more money to train police more, even though that hasn't worked in decades. Yeah. He's upset at angry ideologues, which means he is not on my team. What? He says it's time for good management and real diplomacy and indifference towards partisan political fights. Okay, so he is running the same grift as a lot of Democrats are, of let's just shake the hand of the person across the aisle and then let them dictate what we're going to talk about. And by them, I mean Republicans, because fuck Democrats.
He also says, if I had to pick a political leaning, I would call myself a bleeding heart libertarian.
So he's a piece of shit if that's his stance. That is not good. Yeah, that's not great.
Oh, he has really strong opinions about tiny homes.
Wait, what's his opinion on tiny homes? I don't see that.
Let's see. What is this saying?
He's a libertarian. He should love it.
He says no one wants their $500,000 home devalued by a $5,000 tiny home placed next door or anywhere nearby. Understandable. But what if the $5,000 tiny home was publicly owned and not for sale and never included in property sales figures?
Wait.
I don't know.
Wait, no, what? That sounds like he's saying we should stop letting people live in tiny homes and start making them pay rent for little houses they built themselves to avoid the horrible way that we charge people money. He's saying we should commoditize tiny homes even more because fuck poor
people. Well, in his next paragraph, he says, Are you willing to part with some regulations for the betterment of humanity? If you think that energy efficiency is more important than solving homelessness, then I would say you are an advocate for banning the sale and use of all tents and RVs in this state. Wait, I'm confused about.
You're confused because this guy's a fucking piece of shit.
Does that even
you're
take an
not
opinion?
confused.
I don't think he even took an opinion there.
No, his opinion is that libertarianism, if he's following that, like the base tenet of it, he believes that everything needs to be available for everything, and if he doesn't like something, instead of actually finding a reason, he's finding an opposing reason that it could be bad, and then applying it to restricting things away from people instead. Even though that tiny home thing is absolutely restricting things away from people, he's fine using that as an argument. This guy sucks. This guy's the worst.
Yeah, it doesn't get better.
If you have that up, I need you to look up somebody. Are you looking at a website candidates or just this guy?
Wait, he has a section on the website called Lightning Round, and it's just like quick blurbs about things that he cares about. One of the topics is sex education. What do I think about? I remember my 5th grade sex education class, which mostly ended once the word penis was mentioned. We spent the rest of the session giggling and saying, he, penis. I don't think any of us took the material seriously. How much should a governor weigh in on a sex education in class curriculum? I would suggest that it is a better question for the state superintendent, but personally, I'm okay with it being offered for... Okay, great. It took a long time to get to the opinion, and I only read the first part.
Also, if he went to school here, well, he said, well, okay, how this can't be older than like mid-50s. I don't know, based on his face and my judgments. So let's say he's been a business owner at least since his 30s. I would be surprised. Oh, and he went to college in Green River. So he sounds like he's from Washington. The Washington 5th grade sex ed includes watching live birth and stuff. Like, you see a lot of shit in that. If he's saying that the word penis derailed it, then that's a problem with him and his class, not the education. That's a weird statement to have on it.
It was just a weird anecdote to even, I don't know, whatever. Wait, what did you want me to look up?
We could talk about this jackass for the rest of time. This is the reason why I hate libertarianism in my adult life, because everything they believe contradicts everything else that they stand for, and it really fucking annoys me. Okay, so the guy I want you to look up, his name is Alex, and his last name is Scissorman. It's spelled T-S-I-M-E-R-M-A-N.
Wow, okay.
So this dude is bananas. He prefers the Stand Up America Party, whatever the fuck that is. It has something to do with living free or dying. I know that. If you can find his statement, I would love for you to be able to look through that.
Okay, I'm looking. I think Alex Zimmerman?
Yeah. I think I said Scissorman. It's Zimmerman. Yeah.
Okay. Let me look it up again. I found a different Zimmerman.
Really?
Yeah.
His website is alexforamerica.com, if that works.
Is it number 4 or 4?
F-O-R.
Okay. For America.
I haven't looked at his website. This could be exciting, honestly.
Oh, we found it. Okay. Stop Seattle fascism with idiotic face.
Yep.
All right.
Does it say that over and over like 40 times?
Yeah, it does. We need to stop Nazi social democratic mafia with progressive Gestapo principle, which has brought Seattle to #1 fascist city in America. Okay. Stop corruption and restore the republic.
Alex Scissorman, this is in his community service. Actually, let me just read his community service out of this real quick. You might enjoy it. Let's first state he went to college, university, does not specify any of that, but says master degree in engineering and management. Sure.
Okay.
Community service. Won class action in 1997 for housing discrimination. Okay. Included HUD. I don't know what that means, but okay. Heads up display, I guess. Next point. Won a very unique class action in 2015 against DSHS for stealing $100 million from 50,000 people, period. No information needed, I guess. Speaking over 3,000 times, this is the start of a new sentence, speaking over 3,000 times in many council chambers about local government corruption and to restore our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He just says, and pursuit of happiness, but he's not a good writer. That's another point. So his next point is my favorite. Referring himself in the third person, Alex Scissorman has received over 12 trespasses for a total of more than 1,200 days from going into the demo Nazi Gestapo council chambers. Huh?
Wow.
And then his last statement on community service, which is what this is under, is just stand up America and join him. So he says that stop Seattle King fascism with idiotic face over and over and over. He says it in this 25 times, but each one is marked with a new statement number. But his last line under all of that just says, vote for Trump and Alex Scissorman to bring Washington and America back to common sense of, by, and for the people. If he wrote this after everything started happening with the protests, he's a bigger piece of shit, but still he's a pretty big piece of shit. Also, his business is being a caregiver for his mother, which I guess kudos. Maybe
I saw that.
Continue that part.
The other
parts.
He says that he is a political and religious refugee from the Soviet Union and the KGB.
I don't see that part.
That's in his About Me, but I don't know, maybe that. He says he's been in Seattle and King County for approximately 30 years.
Okay.
He talks about the lots and lots of trespasses that he has.
Okay.
Oh, it goes, I have 11 trespass from Seattle City Hall and Council Chamber for a total of more than 1,200 days. This is in all caps. Nobody in United States history has ever had this happen before.
So
I understand why he likes Trump.
So his argument seems to be that anything left-leaning that's coming out of Seattle is fascism, but he's basing that off of, I guess, the civil disobedience and shit that we do here not being the right kind, because that seems to be his only community service is civil disobedience or complaining about things he doesn't like.
I guess.
I don't know.
Seattle
obviously
is
he's
Seattle,
very bad.
It's not great. He says Seattle fascism is classic fascism when government together with corporations suck blood and money from the people. This is pure example of fascism.
Okay. I think
Okay.
he should, if that's his opinion, then he should be very upset by our COVID response. Like, that is exactly
Yeah.
what he's complaining about in that statement. And he should be very upset at Amazon, which doesn't seem to be part of his whole thing. It's definitely not in his community service.
This is really good. I have more than 50 traffic tickets given to me by policemen. All tickets I bring to court, and I ask the policeman to be present. A dozen of these tickets I have brought to appeals court. This is nothing unusual. This shows how the government sucks blood and money from the less protected class. I know how the system works and how the system doesn't work. I have experience from two almost identical systems. I have experience from a corrupt bureaucrat Soviet Union empire, and now with a corrupted bureaucrat American empire. And then it says elected experience, none.
Yeah. I guess unsurprising, but it's becoming more surprising by the day here.
Yeah.
Demo-Nazi Gestapo
bottom,
is interesting.
Yeah, that is. At the bottom, it says, my hero is George Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
Really? Because I heard at least one of those people was a American Hitler.
That's what I've heard. I don't know who Abraham
I don't know how
Lincoln
people can try to like push their idea of being for the people, but then also support things that are explicitly racist. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to just lie directly to people for government positions. You should have to actually like go through some sort of non-partial system that has like some form of commentary attached to it, because like, as much as I enjoy Good Space Guy's garbage rants about nothing, I also think that it would be very helpful to have like, here's either a nonpartisan or several opinions on like what this says. Granted, this book would be like 200 pages, but like, when you vote for an issue, they give points and counterpoints and rebuttals. We need that for these people. Like, this shit is so fucking bananas, and if you're voting based on just this, like, yeah, there's just a shorter list of like actual people. Like, you look at all these people, and then you look at people like Liz Halleck and who's current man, Inslee, and you read their stuff and you're like, okay, you're speaking language that is both coherent and like backs up what you're saying after another and has some outside opinion attached to it. That's what you need. But then you get people who are just like screaming about the weirdest shit. I wish I could find... So I didn't find it. I remember it was in a weird, like... Oh, actually, no, I found this. This is fun. There is a guy who has at his name for governor of Washington State, who is a Labor Party person, apparently. He spells governor in the European way, which I don't know if that's supposed to be crass or not. But he refers to Jay Inslee as Jay Sleazy several times in his very short statement. He also, his community service is that David is a member of Demo Lay in his teens, like Bill Clinton. So he's comparing himself to Bill Clinton, which, if you're a Labor Party person, is incorrect. You have already pulled from the wrong places. But he's saying that Jay Sleazy supported Crooked Hillary, which is also weird for his like Bill Clinton reference. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. That seems like just the literal ravings of a person who is upset and thought it would be good to put stuff in here. They didn't submit a photo or anything, so it's another like, I don't know. Where is this person? So there is one person in the list, and maybe I'll find it later for another podcast, or maybe I'll just text you. One of the people who I think was either Republican or Libertarian goes on like a relatively coherent list of things about like, hey, we need like a different way of doing things. And then, of course, they talk about like we need to get rid of all regulation and taxes because people don't understand. I don't even know who I mean by people in that sense. Both people who don't want to pay attention and people who are assholes want to get rid of regulation and taxes because it helps rich people. And if it doesn't just help rich people, then you believe it'll help you, which is crazy. He talks about stuff, and then at the end of his statement, which I guess is the downside if you're doing a fucking pseudo-comedy podcast of not being able to find this stuff, of having a big booklet. At the end, he's like, also, we need to do something about the Jews, which is like, whoa! Hey, maybe somebody should go talk to this guy instead of just having his information in the booklet here.
Instead of just indiscriminately printing what he has to say, maybe.
I mean, I get it. Like, you want people to be able to say what they're going to say, and you're going to run into problems when you don't. But, man, that's a rough one to see just show up.
Yeah.
And pretty much every other small position has one incumbent Democrat running against a Republican of some kind, because, like, there's not a ton of, like, competition for a lot of those. Also, we don't typically get Republicans here for a reason. The people who do get put up as like Republican figureheads are terrible, and a lot of their stuff is just frustrating to read. It's not funny enough. It's a lot of people being like very pro Washington State, but in a way that's like kind of disgusting. In a
like a secessionist dude.
A little bit like that, but a lot more that are like, hey, you know our state's great. We just need to get rid of these leaders who are Democrats because they're not as good. We also have a guy running for Commissioner of Public Lands who is just completely fashioned himself, obviously, after the dude, the Big Lebowski. Like,
oh my god.
That's obviously his whole deal.
Oh my god.
Like, we have a lot of people like that
Fantastic.
as well. Always a shame to see libertarians that are also women. You would hope that they'd have better sense than that. But hey, you gotta remember that everybody has the same capacity for stupidity. Anyway, that's how the election's going. I hope it turns out well. And I hope yours turns out well, because I bet there's less chance of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll keep you posted on the probably disappointing and not at all surprising results. And I will just be mostly curious to see what this mail-in ballot looks like. So once I get that, we'll have to go through it.
You guys are actually getting a mail-in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good. I hadn't heard definitively if that was even happening yet.
Well, it's not happening like by default. You have to like sign up for it. You have to apply for it.
Okay.
So it's not.
I don't really understand. Like, I guess I do understand the opposition for people who realize that giving everybody more opportunity and insistence on voting equals humanitarian votes equals not Republican votes, but the amount of people just going along with let's just not do this is really shitty, because ideally there should be about 50% at least of like Democratic leadership to say, yeah, let's do it. The only voices we're hearing is let's not, and that's, I don't really understand how that works unless there is a large portion of that just doesn't get reported, and the people reporting it have a reason not to, or it's not interesting enough. I don't know.
I don't know, but I have seen a lot of just total misinformation regarding like mail-ins and how supposedly easy or not easy it is to, or easy it is to like falsify those. And I mean that's been like a Republican anti-mail-in ballot talking point for a long time, but it's not true, and it's disappointing to see that more.
Yeah, well, it's like the guy who got shot out here in Bothell by his police partner, and then it being reported like, we're just going to report it like he got shot and leave it at that. Or the
it's like,
every other crisis that's like, or not necessarily crisis, but everything that's reported that's just reported as like, look, we have facts about this, but like, you make up your own conclusions, and we'll just insinuate that maybe you get the wrong one. I don't appreciate.
And that's not. I mean, it's not a good thing that happened, but it's not like a full-on crisis, and they're still lying about it. Like, why?
They're lying by omission, which is the favorite thing to do when it comes to humanitarian issues, because the more information you tell, the more obvious it is that they're lying about it. So I don't know. Anyway, we're coming up on your cutoff time for today, so we should get that in action. So let me.
I got some serious D&D to get to.
Oh yeah, and you're gonna need some face for that.
So
let me just give you the worst possible sounds to leave out on. I hope you enjoyed our
podcast. Yay!
Thank you.
That was very good.
But jabbers, and whenever you think about what the libertarians in your voting manual are saying, go ahead and think of that song I just said, and just let that run through your brain a little bit, and then reread it a couple times.
Yeah.
And think about Seattle King fascism a little bit, I guess.
Do that and be gone, thoughts.
Mm-hmm.